Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad that you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have with us Charles Matthew, who is here from Dallas, who's got a very interesting and diverse background. He began life as an engineer, well, after being a child.
Yeah, let's say
He
after
didn't come
school.
in as an engineer. Right.
Right.
But he got a background in engineering and worked for many years in the corporate world, in the corporate environment, and found some other things kind of arising in his soul. And as a result, he began studying any number of different things, such as neurolinguistic programming, Reiki, and the Huna teachings from Hawaii. And also got himself initiated and certified in a number of different areas, as I've mentioned. He's since been traveling around the country doing private work sessions with people on a very fine energetic level, working with crystals, with gemstones, and with Amante. And we'll be going into a little bit of that, what Charles will describe what I'm referring to as the interview goes on. And you'll get a chance to become acquainted with Charles's work, and he's making a profound impact on many people around the country. So welcome. Great to have you on the show.
Mitch, great to be here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
my pleasure. Sure.
Yes.
So what was it that happened inside you when you decided to make the switch from engineering, Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, into a more spiritualized kind of domain?
It was a calling from within my inner being. I started off, got my engineering degree in '72, went into marketing right away and into sales, and I was into this back in the mid '70s, into this lifestyle that was pretty active. I did a lot of drinking. And I just knew if I continued with the alcohol, okay, back the fraternity days, okay, and happy hour, that's where I had supper, all right, and this was back in Houston at the time.
So there was kind of a need for
something was off, and I said, hey, what can I do? So I started the path then, and I continued, and it became more and more of a vocation as opposed to an avocation. And so I'm closing down my electronics company, and now I'm working with the energies, working with Amante, working with people, and in terms of helping them along their path, their spiritual path, their personal growth path, full time now. Big transition.
I'd say so.
Here I leave the world of finely defined electronics, engineering, business, and go and play with energies, this invisible world.
Sure. The funny thing is, in a sense, that the relationship between the two is not really that far. It has the appearance in our conventional thinking that it is a world away. However, the fact is that the entire computer industry, supposedly engineering-based, scientifically based, is all based on crystals, microchips. So what are we really talking about?
It's real similar. It's interesting that you bring that. It's so. Our computers, they're made up of chips, of silicon chips. Silicon dioxide, which is what crystal is made of. In fact, it's ground up crystal, it's regrown. And if you look at the basics of what electronics is made up about, is four basic characteristics. It's similar to what crystal energy is about, and that's that you amplify the energy, you amplify the electronics. You filter the energy, or you filter the electronics. You transpose or transform the energy or the electronics, or you store or put in memory the energy or the electronics. They're very, very similar. And interestingly enough... Parallel, exactly. And interestingly enough, back in the early days, electronics was pretty invisible. And it's only recently that the instruments have been developed where we could figure out what goes on with the chips, what goes on with the little things in there. It's going to be the same thing with this world of energy. There are going to be instruments where we can visibly watch what's happening as it's happening. Now we can just see the effects of it. And those effects are pretty profound in many cases. It looks invisible to us unless we have that sixth sight, that sixth sense. So it's very, very similar in a lot of respects. And I can draw a lot of parallels with computers and how they work and how humans work with regard to energy. Yeah.
Well, the point probably is, in terms of analogies, that when we don't understand something, we consider it to be mysterious, unknown,
Yes.
and we relegate it to a spiritual world,
Yes.
and also tend to be in this world to slough it off.
Yes.
However, what we find is that when we bring the light of observation and some scientific power to bear, it is no longer unknown. It becomes what we refer to as known. Now, we can know things on many different levels, intuitively, for instance, and still consider it to be very real. But other people need to see it. No problem. It can be seen eventually. If not now, the instrumentation will be developed, if not physically, technologically, to see what it is. From auras, electromagnetic fields around the body,
Yeah.
are a fine
It's a good
example
example.
of that.
It's a real good
Until
example.
relatively recently, this was considered to be, fairyland stuff. But there are those of us who knew that there's not fairyland stuff at all. In fact, it's fundamentally and fully rooted in physics. But unless you really think of it correctly, it looks like it's she, or, like foo, like that. But now that science and the work, for instance, of Valerie Hunt, major scientist who studies energy fields and has been able to document them and photograph them, now it's no longer in the etheric. Now it's grounded in physical, sensible reality. Anyway, enough of that. I would really want to hear more about you, because your transition, in a sense, from engineering to the engineering of the spirit is actually maybe not so far away at all. Tell us a little bit about your life. What do you do?
Well, what I do now
Yeah.
what I do now is I go around and do workshops and work with people privately in the energies.
Yeah.
And let me talk about how I'm bringing my experience from the corporate world and engineering world and the world of electronics to this. And that one of the things that I'm doing is making the results, finding what makes the results repeatable and the same, okay? In other words, putting some consistency into what this invisible world is about. I've done some research in that, and it's quite interesting. And like with any scientific experience, it's important that you start with the same base, with the same base or same base material. Whenever you're doing an experiment, whenever you're doing a test case, what you do is you have the exact set of criteria, the exact environment for Group A, the exact environment for Group A, Person B, whatever it may be.
Control the variables.
Yes, you control the variables. And when you look at a lot of these variables, sometimes I'll do something with someone and it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So I go back and I look and say, well, what are the variables that were off? I found some that were pretty interesting. And I found that in one of the first basic variables, like in working with crystals. Crystals were real popular for a long time, or for a while back in the mid-'80s. And then all of a sudden they lost their popularity. One of the reasons is because people got mixed or the wrong result. One of the real basics that I found in my research is that in the simple things with regard to crystals, 62% of the time the reason that they didn't work is because they weren't clear. Something that simple. The crystals weren't clear energetically.
Or their users weren't.
The crystals weren't clear. Okay, the crystals, one of the uses, 62% of the time.
Percent.
Yeah. Well, this was with my study.
Okay.
What it did is it told me that if you start off and before you do anything with crystals, if you clear them, you're going to have a better chance of getting a meaningful result, the result you want. You clear them several ways. There are many ways to clear crystals, and I go into this with people and in my workshops. You can clear crystals mainly by intention. You can clear them by putting them under running water for 2 or 3 seconds, 20 or 30 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, 20 or 30 seconds or so with the intention of clearing. You can put them in the sun. You can put them in the moon. You can use sage, such as what's used with the Native American Indian in their ceremonies for clearing. There are many, many ways. There are hundreds of ways of clearing crystals. Whichever way works for you best, as long as you start with a clear crystal, you have a much better chance of the result you want. Putting some of those little basics in place make a big difference. That's just one example.
So when you say you work with people's energies, could you be more specific about what it is you're referring to?
Depends what I'm working with regard to the person.
People come to you for what reasons?
People generally come to me for two major reasons. One is they're at a crossroads in their life and they want a significant spiritual growth, like a breakthrough with their spiritual growth or their personal growth.
And you can help to facilitate that in a sense?
Generally, yes. Generally, yes.
Through connecting to their higher self?
With their higher self, through their energies. Okay, and then the other reason they'll come is they'll come because they have a physical, emotional, or mental pain. Okay, that's there and they want to get rid of it.
The great motivator.
Sort of like the great motivator, like a healer thing. All right. Well, myself, I'm a healer and I'm not a healer. All right. And that what I do is I work with the causal issues of the pain as opposed to the symptom. I look on pain as a symptom. How come the pain is there? What's it about?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got to go into the causal effects. The causal effects are where the energy, we're working with the energies takes place. Question that comes up and it gets redefined for me all the time is what is energy? All right, and what I'm talking about is the subtle energy of the body. That invisible force that's around is that aura that you talked about. And depending who you talk to or who you study with, there are several different layers of this. And the idea is that if your aura, if your energetic field is in line, that your body will line up. So that's the level of energy that I work with. Depending, again, who you're with or what you're studying, it's referred to as mana, it's referred to as chi, prana. I call it subtle energy or just energy for short. That's what I work with. I've been gifted with this ability.
You have some kind of power emanating from your hands. I mean, when you went like this over me before, I felt. Do it again.
All right, and in fact on the camera you may even see sometimes the hair raise up. What this is this is that invisible energy, that prana, that chi, and I'm gifted to be able to let this flow through my hands. This is, if you will, an energy from source, an energy from God that's just flowing through me. Okay, you feel that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And what that does is that does the healing. And what you do, it does the change work. And in terms of people, let me talk more about the pain issues.
Do you feel that you were born with that ability, or is it something that you cultivated?
I come from both. I come from a lineage of healers. My grandmother was a healer, Eastern European.
Oh yeah.
And I came into that, and I have that as I guess you would say I'm a prodigy, from a healing family.
I see.
Right. And also I've studied, I've worked with shamans, I've worked with healers. Primarily, my background in that respect is with the Huna or the Hawaiian tradition, the Huna philosophy or the Hawaiian philosophy, very powerful philosophy. So I'm born with it and I've studied it. And the bottom line of it is the results. Okay, do people get results?
Good point. Good point.
And yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yes. So you work with the energy. It was both inborn and learned, and you took your gift and you kind of accelerated it.
Yeah. The inborn part, I suppressed it back when I was a little kid.
But you were aware of something?
I was aware of it only, I was aware of something, okay, and then I stuffed it. I was told to, by the adults I was around, that it was a no-no to tell everybody what Aunt Mary was thinking, okay, or what went on.
Because you were able to do that?
Oh, sure. And I'd go up and I'd want to heal people and touch them. So anyway, that got shut down.
And were you able to locate those parts of them that were in pain?
They tell me that I was. This comes to me from my aunts who were with me when I was growing up, and they're telling me about this, and the memories are being awoken. It's just recently, it's just in the last couple years that I've become aware of this. Before it was blocked. And I'm just becoming more and more aware of this and more open to it. I've had some significant initiations in Eastern European healing philosophies just recently, just in the last year.
Oh yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about that, or?
There, I could. It's not. It's more or less. Gosh, how will I say? It's more or less private in the sense that I could describe it to you. One description.
Yeah,
I went to
you feel comfortable with.
my uncle, who is an older gentleman. He was passing on. He was real sick. I called up the day just before that he passed on, and it surprised everyone that I called. I was aware of the transition. I was there for the funeral, and part of the funeral, the family priest was there. He was a Catholic priest that was of a high order, high rank, and we got to talk privately. And part of when he was talking with me privately, I felt the energy that I was being checked out by my grandmother, who had passed on about, 25 years previously, to see if I was ready, for that initiation into that energy. As it turned out that I was, and I passed the test. And so on my big transition when I joined the AARP, turned 50, which was just a few months ago, back in September. I had some very serious initiations with some people that were with me, and that's when I really felt the power of the mana, when the experience with the priest meant something to me.
So while in dialogue with the priest,
yes,
an Eastern European Catholic priest,
yes,
you were actually in another dialogue, in a sense, with your passed on grandmother,
yes,
who was initiating you into
yes.
a higher order of healing vibrational activity. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to translate that.
Thank you, thank
sure.
you. So I get a little carried away with that because
yeah.
Before that happened, back many years ago, I became aware that I went to a class. It was about healing.
It's nice for people to know, Charles, that initiations happen on many different levels.
Oh, they
that
do.
It's not
they do.
always as apparent or evident as one might suppose. I know someone who becomes initiated in his dream world.
That happens very often. In fact,
like between 3 and 6 in the morning.
In fact, one of the things that I will do with people when I work with them with spiritual breakthrough work is I'll actually be there for their initiation. That's one significant thing that happens a lot with people. But with the Hawaiian tradition, I went to this class. Keep in mind, here I am, this business person, a marketing person, a management person in the corporate world, and I go. I'm doing this meditating, all right, and I go and I study I go in to find about healing. And so we're doing healing in the class, and all of a sudden my body goes into this rigor mortis like this, and I feel my hands quivering. And the person that's feeling this is going, wow, I'm getting hot, I'm shaking. And I'm going, whoa. And I'm saying, there's something there. And so it shocked me. The teacher at that time, it was a Hawaiian tradition, it was in Dallas. She said, you're a natural healer. And I went, what does that mean? Yeah. And several years later, I understood more. I studied with someone privately, and I put more words, I put form and structure. Keep in mind, I've got this, left brain, right brain type mind. Anyway, I've got to have logic to it. It has to make sense to me.
Predominance,
yes,
which gives
yes.
you analytical, linear style, mathematical skills.
Yes. So here I am doing all this healing, able to do all this healing. And
everybody's got a left brain and a right brain.
Yes, they do.
That's not it.
So it's a logical part.
It's whatever's predominant in one's experience.
See, I had to have it explained to me here.
No problem.
That's one thing that's a little different with me about in terms of the healing is that, hey, I'm able to do it, and I also like to understand what it's about. And a lot of my studying has been understand what it's about.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Like,
there were more people who endeavored to go that distance.
Oh, sure. I was doing healing with the Reiki energy. Reiki energy is a real popular way of healing these days. Back in the early '80s. In fact, I got my first training back in '81. I got my first mastership in '85. What Reiki did is it put some structure around how to lay my hands on people. Yet I'd been doing that for years before.
Sure.
Put some logic to it. Put some left brain to it.
Yeah, give it a structure.
Yeah.
Name and form.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Could we just divert for a moment and just touch upon Amante?
Oh, Amante. Oh, sure. Amante.
I've been introduced, so I can touch.
Yes. Yeah, Amante is real shy about who can be with her and who can touch her. Amante is a crystal skull. I acquired her on December 12th, 1997. And it's changed my life. The knowing, the levels of awareness, the levels of alignment that I've come to since being with Amante has been profound.
Is that so? Could you describe what has changed that you could put your finger on? No pun intended.
I've become aware of some new information. I'm now in the process of writing about that in terms of some significant or some ways, some techniques that, if they're used and applied, can very simply change how we change our lives. If you do some simple things like set the energies in the room in a certain way, you can have a better experience of being in that room, meaning that the environment is calmer, it's more comfortable, it's more supporting. What it does is takes the chaos and puts order in it.
And you feel that you have been informed through your relationship with Amante?
I will
to
say,
know what to put where,
yeah.
even to sense the differences between a room that's supportive and not.
I will say that working with Amante, it's made me more aware of that. Did Amante teach me the information? Part of it, yes. Part of it I already knew, and she just put some order to it, to where it made sense, to where it worked.
Crystal energy.
Crystal type energy.
She helped to crystallize the ideas.
Yeah. Amante is wonderful for journeys. Amante is wonderful for journeys to the other world. Right.
How so?
You want to go on a dimensional trip? Go with Amante. Okay, as your guide. She'll take you to many, many places.
Start a new cosmic travel service.
Yeah.
Go to the ancient pyramids
people will come up, and myself included, and they'll ask for, well, what's Amante about? You know, what's an experience about? It's different for each person. It may be different at a different time. But one thing that happens with a lot of people is that they travel into, if you will, another dimension, another place. That other place could be in another part of the world. It could be at another time. It could be back to the times of Lemuria, back to the times of Atlantis, back to another world.
So you're saying that the presence of Amante through touch or just physical being in the
just
room,
physical being in the room,
that facilitates time travel?
Yes.
And interdimensional travel?
Yes. And I've done that. I've done that before and after with some of the best people. In fact, maybe even some of the people you've interviewed. Amante, having only been with her for just a little over a year, and it's been mostly my personal growth. I really haven't taken her that much out in public or let her work that much with people, or she hasn't let me take her out in public. That's more appropriate.
And you know that by what you feel in response to trying. Mm-hmm. You just get a sense that.
I get a sense of
what's okay and what's not.
What's okay and what's not. I get a sense, and I also hear a voice sometimes. Oh, Mitch, your energy's wonderful. It's beautiful. You're one of the few people I've met that have some real nice settling energy, just as natural. Amante allows very few people to touch her. Let's say in this past year, she's allowed very few people to touch her and come in contact with her.
Wow. Well,
it says good things about you and your work.
So much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What, as a scientist, Charles, would you say, how would you describe Amante's effect, this crystal structure? How does this structure affect the outcomes you're referring to, such as helping you, if you will, again, crystallize thoughts, or to add an order to your thinking, or facilitate that kind of dimensional travel you referred to? Do you have any sense from, let's say, as you were talking about the interface of the crystal world, so to speak, to the computer world, microchips, silica, etc.? Do you have any sense of how this particular structure is interfacing with interdimensions and time?
The real honest answer to that is no.
Have you given it any thought?
I give it thought all the time. I can make some guesses at it. And one quality is the quality of the stone that Amante is from, and where and where the stone has been.
Which is?
And I'm told by other psychics and by my own information that this particular stone, not this carving of Amante, but this particular stone that she's from, it comes from the times of Lemuria. And many psychics that when they come in contact with Amante, I have 9 so far that have said they will write letters and everything to the effect of, yes, it's Lemurian energy. She was there in times of Lemuria. So it's
this
partly this particular stone.
Stone, okay.
Not the shape that she's in, the particular stone. I'm told by my own channeling and by other psychics that this is the 3rd carving of Amante.
Oh.
And if you're familiar with some of the crystal skulls that are around, this is what's referred to as a contemporary carving. So while it may be the shape, and the shape is that of a skull, that has the effect, I feel it's actually the base stone itself, and where it's been.
Yes, that's really conferring the effect.
Yeah, and that I wish I could put to you in more definitive terms. To me, those are my current thoughts.
That's a start. When I interview again, you'll have a clearer picture
but
of what it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, it's interesting because why not use the power of your scientific training as a way of, not to mention your imagination. I use mine all the time, and I don't have any scientific training at all. Just because that's a wonderful function of the mind. Could you? Yeah, please.
One thing I thought I might do at this time, if it's okay with you, is that people out there are saying, okay, we're here looking at Amante. How can I have an experience of what this is like?
Oh, great.
Is they can hear words. What I'd like to do is I'd like to put the energy of Amante into words in a Hawaiian chant.
Beautiful.
All right? And this is a very short chant. Actually, let me do a little bit longer chant. And what I'm going to do,
we're a little running out of time, so
yeah. Let me do A Laka A without the energy of Amante, and then A Laka A with the energy of Amante. It's about 20 seconds each one.
Oh,
so
plenty.
let me do A Laka A like
out.
this. It goes like this. E Laka E Laka Ika Leo, E Laka Ika Loa A, E Laka Ika Vai Vai, Me Ka Mahalo Ihi. Now let me do that with the energy of Amante. E Laka E Laka Ika Leo, E Laka Ika Loa A, E Laka Ika Vai Vai, Me Ka Mahalo Ihi. Ika Makama, Ika Oka Mahalo. Okay, do you notice any difference?
That's a funny question.
So that's a way of showing you a little bit of a difference with you. I'm breaking into a sweat.
She didn't do that to me.
But what it does,
she knows you better.
this is part of that working with the invisible quality of the energies, the subtle quality of the energies. What is this difference? What is it? Well, there wasn't a meter here that was saying this peak this way, peak that way. I don't know about you, I had a feeling that there was a difference. And I'm sure that some of you out there have a feeling that there's a difference. It's about results.
It is.
It's like the electricity that's in the wall. Okay, can we see it? Not really. If we put our wet fingers in the plug, we can sure feel it. There's something there. And it's the same way with the energy of Amante.
Sure.
In that one way that I brought it to y'all. Y'all being a Texas term.
Yeah. Well, Charles, I really want to thank you for being a guest on our show.
Thank you.
It's really
I've
been
enjoyed
a pleasure to have you and Amante both.
Thank you.
Truly, it's obvious you're doing some really good work out there and blessing a lot of people and helping them along the path. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
We'll have you back again. Great.
Thank you.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. give a call at 212-420-0800. Love hearing from you, your thoughts and feelings. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.